So my message to anyone who's here is to say, prepare yourself for a marathon. In your head, prepare yourself for a marathon. Pack supplies, huddle down, make sure you've got a stable income, and then prepare yourself for this thing going on for 2 years. Now, I don't think it's going to go on for 2 years, but if you're expecting a 2-year marathon and this thing ends in 8 months, you're still here.
Before we dive into the challenges, let's have a quick talk about the markets, because we've had some pretty exciting moves overnight. Bitcoin obviously pumped really hard up to, I think it was 20K or something, and then has dumped back down just before the monthly close. So what do you make of that, Ran?
I mean, I don't know if you read my Twitter this morning, but it's, so ironic that one day that we're cruising above 20,000 on Bitcoin. And one day, the last day of the quarter, when most of the funds have to report their quarterly results to their investors, we get a huge dump for completely no reason in crypto. I mean, the only news that came out, there were 2 bits of news that came out yesterday. The first one was that the GBTC ETF got declined. No huge surprise there, unless you've been living under a rock. The second piece of news is that there was EU, they agreed on the law that would make all self-custodial wallets have to KYC practically. That's the long and the short of it. But none of those were new. And you get this huge dump in crypto, and you get a huge dump in altcoins. So now you've got to ask yourself a question. If you're a fund and you've got one day to fix up a performance gap, what do? You go to the most illiquid market in the world that is being flooded out the most, and you take a quick short position, flood out the market, liquidate a whole lot of traders, create a cascade of liquidators. When the market closes, or 15 minutes before the market closes, you've done your bit. Thanks very much. Big green candle, we're back to where we started the day. It cannot be manipulation. No way.
Yeah. Well, you can't. Bitcoin's completely decentralized. You can't manipulate it. So I agree with you. It's not manipulation. Lady of Crypto, where do you see the market going?
Well, I think quite a few people are probably not going to like what I'm about to say, but it's my opinion, and that's that. I mean, when you're talking about the green candle that we've just seen, I think it's just one of those things. It's a bit of an exit pump, and this instills even more confidence, with what I'm thinking, that we are going to continue to go down. I don't think the 20K, resistance area at the moment is going to really hold up. And I think we're going to be heading down to 14K. I wouldn't even say that 10K is out of the question right now. Like, with everything that's going on like a macro scale, we look at the economy, inflation, everything is just a complete shit show. So 14K, potentially likely, 10K, you never know. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But I think if anybody turns around and says to you, Bitcoin is going to do this, it's definitely going to do that, they're just absolutely full of it, because the point is nobody actually knows. It's just about being patient and waiting and having something in place where you're prepared for a bullish or a bearish scenario.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, that's the way to approach it. Rand, do you agree? Where do you see the market going over the next few weeks, months?
Yeah, I mean, I must agree. I'm not really good at calling, as I said, I'm not really good at calling levels. I just use charts for confirmation. But is there a potential continuation of the downtrend? Absolutely. I think macro has just started the unwind. I think crypto unwound its liquidation positions really, really quickly, because that's the nature of a highly levered market. So if you're in a highly levered market, as the first, I mean, we had a bombshell of a first liquidation, which was Terra Luna, which was the biggest liquidation that we could have ever imagined in crypto. Not only because it was one of the biggest ecosystems, which probably had $100 billion worth of value across all the different investments, the protocol, UST, Anchor, Mirror, Astroport, and all the ecosystems around it, but because the rest of crypto was also completely levered against it. And now what we're seeing is that Celsius was levered against it. We're seeing that Three Arrows Capital was levered against it. And the problem is that Three Arrows Capital borrowed money from places like Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager, etc., and put it on Anchor protocol. And what Three Arrows Capital also did was they managed treasuries of protocols they invested in and put the money on Anchor protocol. And so what you're getting now is this mass unwinding of liquidations. Now, we don't know what we don't know. So what we do know is Celsius, Voyager, BlockFi, Sierra's Capital. But we still don't know about what we don't know. And I think Sam Bankman-Fried spoke about it he touched on it. And he said there's a lot of exchanges that are actually secretly in liquidation. And the truth is that I actually think it's not only exchanges. I think there's a lot of protocols, lending protocols, smaller protocols. And I think that that's just going to continue to create a cascade of liquidations in a very bad macro economy. So can we go down? Yeah, I think we're going to continue to go down. I think that most people, though, will blow themselves up somewhere else. So I don't think that actually most people are going to lose all their money, because I think people are already starting to apply risk management, and I think that the scared hands have already sold. I think where most people are going to blow themselves up is they're going to get fatigued by the market. So they're just not going to have the energy to survive a long-term bear market. And I only say this from experience. I was around in 2017 and 2018. I rode the bull market, and then we got into the bear market. And what ended up happening to me and a whole lot of people very similar to me is we as the market grinded lower and lower, but very, very, very slowly over a long period of time, it has a way of trying to knock your conviction and belief of this technology out of you. And that's where most people are actually going to fall. They're going to fall into the negative news cycle. They're going to fall into smart people saying that there's no need for Bitcoin anymore. They're going to fall into, when that message gets driven for the next 12 months, and at the same time, prices continue to go down. And at the same time, this place becomes boring. It becomes a graveyard. And, Twitter becomes dead. We're right now at the anger stage where people are fighting with each other on Twitter. The next stage is Twitter's just going to be just a boring place to be. And that's what's going to wipe out most people. It's going to be endurance and not a sprint. And most people aren't going to have the mental endurance to survive the bear market. That's the concern.
Interesting, yeah. But you've survived a bear market, so you have the mental endurance, you and your team.
I mean, if you want a real story, and maybe it'll motivate a lot of people, I don't normally tell the story because I don't think it's one of my finest moments, but I survived the bear market until the very end. And I was 100% in crypto until the very end, but they got to a point where after 18 months, I hadn't earned a dime because all the stuff that we were doing wasn't generating revenue because companies in the crypto world didn't want it. And, we weren't doing the crypto channel. And so eventually I actually started looking for things to do to generate income. And it took 80% of my focus off crypto. I actually started to design software for pandemic protection systems for big businesses. And that took my focus off crypto for 3 months. Now, luckily, I had a friend who in September that year came to me and said, have you seen this thing called yield farming? And what I realized was that with the little crypto that I had left, I could yield farm and actually make huge money. And so in kind of like August, September, October of the pandemic year, what I found myself doing was, even though I'd left crypto for 3 months, I came back and I started yield farming. Now, a lot of people are going to leave, and when they come back, the next time they come back is at the top of the cycle again when they get FOMO because they're missing these crazy returns. And so my message to anyone who's here is to say, prepare yourself for a marathon. In your head, prepare yourself for a marathon. Pack supplies, huddle down, make sure you've got a stable income, and then prepare yourself for this thing going on for 2 years. Now, I don't think it's going to go on for 2 years, but if you're expecting a 2-year marathon and this thing ends in 8 months, you're still here. If you're expecting 8 months and this thing goes on for 12 months, you may not still be here. And so for me, having seen this before, get yourself into stability, get yourself into a warm place and huddle yourself down and expect the worst. Manage the downside, let the upside take care of itself.
Perfect. That's a really powerful and great message. And I think it's something people need to hear in this space because a lot of people do expect things to turn around real quick. They expect that V-shaped reversal, but it's unlikely to happen historically speaking and just looking at the economy. So that's an awesome message.